be doing 20 shoulder stretches to help prevent and treat shoulder pain. Now I know 20 might seem like a lot of stretches, but the shoulder is a very complex joint. It's a ball and socket joint, and there are a lot of muscles like the rotator cuff muscles that attach to it and control the ability to move the shoulder. In order to raise your arm all the way up, your scapula actually has to rotate as well. Otherwise, the arm is going to hit the bone that's above. It's literally impossible to move your arm all the way up without rotating the scapula. Now, for each of these exercises, you should feel a nice stretch, but if it's painful, please stop and see a healthcare professional. So let's get into it. We're going to start by stretching out the posterior capsule of the shoulder. So bring one arm across the body parallel to the ground and use your other hand to hold on to your elbow and think about bringing that elbow towards your chest, and you should feel a nice stretch on the posterior aspect of your shoulder, and that's the posterior capsule. This stretch is so important because a lot of times people have posterior capsule tightness, and that is a predisposition to having pain in the shoulder and rotator cuff dysfunction. We're gonna hold each stretch for 30 seconds long. Now, if you actually have shoulder problems, then this stretch might be very painful for you, so just be gentle and take it slow. Alternatively, you can use a wall to do this stretch to bring your arm across the body. And instead of using your other hand to get a better stretch, you're gonna be using the wall as pressure to get a better stretch in that posterior capsule. We're gonna switch to the other side. Now, a lot of people wonder, why do you have to hold a stretch for 30 seconds? And it's because 30 seconds is the amount of time that's needed in order for the muscle to actually elongate. So if you think about like a rubber band, if you're trying to stretch a rubber band out and you just hold it for 5 seconds, it's going to go back to the original position. Versus if you hold it for 30 seconds, then it'll actually remain stretched out. So the same applies to muscles. And so that's why you hear a lot of people recommend to hold each stretch for 30 seconds. Now for the next stretch, we're gonna be stretching the external rotators of your shoulder. So bring your hand behind your back and place the back of your hand above your butt. And think about bringing your elbow towards your belly button. Now, you're not gonna actually bring your elbow to your belly button, but that is the direction that you wanna think about. And this is stretching the external rotators like the infraspinatus, which is part of the rotator cuff muscles. You should feel a nice stretch back here. So this might be very painful for you, and if it is, we have some modifications that I'm gonna show you next. Now switch to the other side. If that stretch is too hard and you can't even get your arm behind your back, here's a modification that you can do. Find a wall, bring your arm and your elbow to 90 degrees, use your opposite hand, and try to push your wrist down towards the ground. And you should feel a stretch back here. Now, if that stretch is too easy, you can also use a wall instead. So use the wall to help push your elbow forward. You should feel that nice stretch back here in the rotator cuff muscles. Now we're gonna be stretching the biceps. Find a chair, or you can even use a wall, and place the palm facing down on the chair. Bring your body forwards, keep your arms straight, and you should feel a nice stretch in your biceps. The biceps has 2 heads, and one of them does originate in the shoulder joint. This stretch is so good because one of the tests that we do when a patient does come in and see us for shoulder pain is called the Speeds test. And that test is checking to see if the biceps tendon is inflamed and is the cause for shoulder pain. Now switch to the other side. Again, palm is flat onto the chair, and you're gonna bring your body forwards and feel a nice stretch here in your biceps, as well as where the biceps attaches onto. Biceps does elbow flexion, and the opposite of that is extension of the elbow, which is the triceps. There's different ways to stretch the triceps. For example, the posterior capsule stretch that we did in the very beginning is actually also a triceps stretch. But for this stretch, we're gonna bring our arm over our head and use our other hand to bring our elbow down, and think about bringing that elbow, try to push it midline towards your body. You should feel a nice stretch right in here, which is your triceps muscle. The triceps is a very important muscle. It has 3 heads, that's why it's called triceps. All right, let's switch to the other side. Again, hand overhead. Sit up nice and straight. Make sure your back is not bent over. We're gonna be doing the traction stretch, so find a chair or something that's around waist level. Bring your hands over your head and place your fingers on top of the chair. Keep your back nice and straight, and you're gonna just stick your butt out. You should feel a nice traction stretch in your shoulder. And this is really good because a lot of times we have a lot of tightness in our shoulder joint. So this just helps release the shoulder joint. You should also feel a stretch in your lats, which is the giant muscle in your back. Now these next 2 aren't stretches, they're exercises, but I like to incorporate them into this shoulder routine because we're constantly on our phones, desk, or computer. And our shoulders just tend to round. And so this exercise is to really help open up that chest, bring those shoulders up, so that way you're not impinging your shoulders and causing more shoulder pain. With this exercise, sit up nice and straight, roll your shoulders back. Think about bringing your scapula down. Bring your elbows at 90 degrees and bring them back. And you should feel a nice squeeze in your scapula. Think about holding a pencil in between your shoulder blades. Now, a lot of people tend to shrug their shoulders up like this. You don't want to do that. Make sure your shoulders are down and you are bringing your elbows back. And hold that. One second rest and repeat. Now this might be a little bit difficult for you to do, so do as much as you can. The next stretch we're gonna do is in our chest. Now I know what you're thinking, why are we doing a chest stretch when this is supposed to be a shoulder stretch exercise? Well, we are constantly doing things in front of us, and so as a result, our shoulders tend to rotate inwards, and then our chest muscles, like our pecs, are very tight. So we need to stretch these pec muscles out so our shoulders can come back out and not be impinged anymore. So with this stretch, find a wall or doorway and bring your shoulder and elbows to 90 degrees. Bring your opposite foot forwards and lean forwards. You should feel a nice stretch here, which is your pec muscles. Now we're going to repeat it on the other side. Now, because the pecs are a giant muscle and they have a lot of fibers, we're also going to do another stretch that targets the upper pecs. Bring your arm up slightly higher. You should feel a nice stretch right in here. You might start to lose some circulation in your fingers. If that happens, just take a quick break. Loosen up those fingers and go back into the stretch. And don't forget to repeat it on the other side. the next stretch that we're doing is called the sleeper stretch. So you're gonna lay onto the ground and bring your shoulder to 90 degrees and elbow at 90 degrees. And you're gonna use your other hand to press down on your wrist and think about bringing your hand down towards the ground. Now you can see that mine is very tight. So if that's you too, that's okay. I definitely need to do this stretch more often. You should feel a nice stretch in your shoulder. Now we're gonna do it on the other side. So again, arm at 90 degrees, elbow at 90 degrees, and think about bringing your wrist down to the ground. Another way to stretch your shoulder external rotators is by laying on the floor. Rest your hands behind your back, just above your butt, and let your elbows just fall onto the floor. And you should feel a nice stretch in your shoulder blade. I love this stretch because it's so passive and it just feels very relaxing. So now we're gonna get onto the ground and do one of the stretches that's called the cat-cow. If you've done any yoga before, you're probably familiar with this exercise, but we're gonna add a little bit of a twist to it. Get onto all fours. Shoulders should be over your hands and hips should be over your knees. And we're gonna start tightening up our abdominal muscles. Think about if somebody is like punching your stomach, like, huh! So we're gonna hold this for 10 to 15 seconds. Now for the variation, we're gonna move to one side. Cow, somebody's punching you into the stomach, and hold that for 10 seconds. And now we're gonna move on to the other side. The next stretch we're gonna do is child pose. Again, it is a yoga pose. Push your hips back onto your butt and lay your hands out in front of you as far as you can. This is a really good full body stretch, but you're also stretching your lats, which is that giant muscle in your back. We're gonna hold this for 30 seconds. Now we're gonna do the variation and go to one side. Okay, and switch to the other side. The next stretch we're gonna do is called thread the needle, which is really great for your thoracic mobility. Get onto all fours and bring your hips back. Use one hand to go across to the other side and try to reach your hand as far as you can. You're gonna bring your shoulder down to the ground. And you should feel a nice stretch in your posterior capsule as well. And try to reach as far as you can go. Now switch to the other side. Threading the needle and bringing your arm across as far as it can go. And bring your shoulder down. Now for the next exercise, we're gonna lay on the ground and rest your forehead onto the ground. You can use a towel on the ground if you want to. And we're gonna place both of our palms up towards the ground and we're gonna bring our hands back like this, like you're making an A. We're gonna hold this for 5 seconds. 1 second rest and repeat. 1 second rest and repeat. Now we're almost at the end, and the last 2 exercises are great shoulder mobility exercises. So they're great if you have shoulder pain. I recommend getting one of these poles or pipes. You can get it at Lowe's or Home Depot. And with this stretch, we're gonna be putting this pole underneath your upper arm and grabbing it with your hand. And you're gonna be lifting the pole up towards the ceiling, and you should feel a nice stretch in your scapula. And this might be really uncomfortable the first time you do it. You might not be used to it, but it is a very good stretch. So again, we're gonna hold this for 30 seconds. If this is too much for you, you can just ease it up a little bit by bringing the pole down. Oh, this feels really tight for me. And now we're gonna repeat it on the other side. So again, you're gonna bring the pole behind your upper arm, grab onto it with your hand, and think about bringing the pole upwards towards the ceiling. Again, this might feel very uncomfortable, so just do what you can. If it's too hard, put less angle and bring the pole down a little bit. Now for the next one, we're gonna hold onto the pole slightly more than shoulder width apart and bring your arms out, lock your arms out. We're gonna bring the pole up and over your head. Now make sure you don't hyperextend with this. You just want to give a nice stretch. Keep your back nice and straight. And we're gonna hold this for about 10 to 15 seconds. If you made it this far, then congratulations. I hope that your shoulder is feeling better. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. I'll see you guys next time.